You have been playing D&D wrong your whole life, and here's how you can fix it. Welcome to Dungeon Talk. Hi, thank you for tuning in today. My name is Showtime, and I'm going to be your host for this episode. You've been playing Dungeons and Dragons wrong, and I can prove it. But I'm not just going to throw out my biased opinion. I'm going to give you 5 ways that you can have your players enjoy your sessions more as a DM, and 5 ways you, as a player, can enjoy your experience more with your DM. Number 1. If have fun is the most important rule at the table, what happens to the other rules? Let me start by asking a simple question, something that any normal person would have no trouble responding to. My question is, do the rules matter when playing board games? Most sane people would answer, well, yes, of course, Showtime. How else am I supposed to run a board game like D&D without a set of rules? And to that I would answer, well, it's quite simple, and here's how. Rules in most board games are a set of guidelines for how the game is operated, usually as a form of do X to get to Y. Like how in the game Root, you play as a bunch of furry critters trying to claim dominance over a set board. To do this, each faction has a different playstyle that leads to players earning victory points. The game ends when the first person gains a total of 30 before the others. But here's the kicker. D&D doesn't have a set win condition. You aren't fighting the DM to earn victory points and win the game. D&D is meant to be a gathering of friends enjoying a set of choose-your-own-adventure games over a competitive fight for oppressive dominance. And sure, some people could sit here and argue that leveling up in D&D or defeating the big bad evil guy is the overall goal of the game. But if you aren't enjoying the experience to reach those goals, then what is the point? Why play the game if certain rules are inhibiting the fun? Let me break it down for you and give an example. The day is calm. Birds are chirping, and the sun is high in the sky, shedding a golden glow on the grasslands. As your group trails behind you, your plate armor hot and heavy as you move through the landscape in search of the kidnapped prince of the kingdom you swore allegiance to. Though the sun beats hot on your steel and leather that confines your body, you know that every second of rest could spell doom for the noble at the hands of the Zent bandit lord. Just as dusk descends on the horizon, you spot it. A low, burning campfire in the distance. You found where they're hiding after a full day's travel. Now that that scene is set, most players would devise a plan of attack, try to save the noble prince from the bandit lord, right? Stealth is off the table since you, as the paladin, are wearing full plate armor. Many ideas are brought up, and the bard suggests that they sneak in using disguise self to try to blend in and sneak the noble out. But that could be dependent on the rolls for deception, so you bench that idea. The ranger wants to survey the area and see if they can spot the prince from afar, but that too could be roll dependent on stealth. You end up coming up with the idea that using the wizard and bard to create a pincer attack on both sides, while the paladin, you, and the ranger do a frontal assault to draw the attention away from the others. Sounds like a great plan, right? And in most cases, it would be. But is that the fun way of doing this encounter? The original bard's plan to sneak in using disguise itself would normally be relying on a set of deception checks. But as a professional dungeon master myself with over a decade of 5e experience, I'd let the bard forgo any rolls assuming that they can act out the situation properly. The second plan of having the ranger sneak is also great. They can find some info and don't even need to properly confront the bandits until the survey is done. I would argue that they can sneak around the campsite using a cover of tents and barrels or other supplies that they could hide behind without the use of stealth checks. Because, from what I have seen, nothing kills the mood of a party faster than having to avoid a fun approach for something practical because the rules would inhibit the experience. And don't even get me started on combat rolls. Nobody likes rolling straight nat ones for an entire combat just because they got unlucky. So as a DM, for a party, broaden your scope of what needs to be dictated by the rules, and what can be skipped in aspect of having fun. That's why everyone you are playing with is there. Sometimes it can feel daunting, avoiding the rules as a dungeon master and how the game intended. But unless you have a rules lawyer at the table that is going to, actually, your every sentence, then you are the dungeon master. The game is yours to tell how you want. As a player, for this instance, openly communicate with your DM about what you can and cannot forego as the rules to enhance the fun for everybody. Communication is key in a game powered by imagination, so ask your DM, hey, if we wait until one of the bandits goes to take a whiz outside of camp, can we jump them without having to roll stealth to sneak up on them? I would imagine most DMs would say, sure, it's just one bandit. You could tie them down and force some info out of them in some way. Instead of just saying, as you do that, you're spotted by the bandit, and he alerts the others. Roll initiative. This leads into number 2. Combat should feel dynamic, not static. We all know that D&D combat has a lot to fix, and most people often try to avoid it whenever possible, as turn actions in 5e can take upwards of 15 to 30 minutes on average, especially if you have newer players at the table that need to open up the player's handbook every turn to decide what they can even do. The worst thing that you can do for combat is say, I rolled a hit. A 15 beats his AC, and so I do 8 damage. I'm then going to cast Healing Word as a bonus action and heal for 5 HP. Sure, that speeds up combat immensely, but did that really feel like an exciting and enjoyable turn? You hit a dude and healed yourself. Big whoop. That is what static combat is. It's just people beating at each other until one or more people reach 0 HP. It's a roll of the dice until luck determines who dies first. Boring. Spice that shit up. Despite playing with colorful math rocks, this game isn't just a numbers game. You can choose to do whatever you want on your turn. Let me break it down for you. The bandits, alerted by your sudden arrival, are startled and have their first turn skipped. You have this turn to prepare an attack. Your turn goes first. Ranger, what would you like to do? I'd like to use one of my fire arrows to try and set the bandit leader on fire. You said he's wearing a fur pelt as a cloak, correct? Would that do additional fire damage each turn if he was ignited? See, this does 2 things. It helps keep your players engaged in combat and the flow, and keeps people interested in cinematic moments. It also helps players be creative with their combat turns so it doesn't turn into a slogfest. But Showtime, items being worn or carried cannot set on fire because, shut up, this is my video. That bandit leader would be set on fire because the wolf that he is carrying, and because the landscape has been dried from the lack of recent rainfall. I would even possibly argue that a flaming person would also bring with it battlefield complications that could set the grasslands ablaze. As a DM, I would ask my players, are you attempting to hit X creature with Y weapon? Where would you like to strike X with Y? And what are you trying to achieve by doing so? This way, the players stay engaged unless they are completely tuned out already. As a player, I would always be looking at combat less as a turn-based attack and damage system, and as a real flowing engagement. I know most people say play the game as if you are your character, but it really stands out in combat situations, where you need to look at the board through your character's eyes. Is there a barrel of oil that you could tip over? Is everyone standing in water for your lightning spell? If I go to aim for his swinging arm, could I break his bones and cause him to miss his attack? Or even aiming at his legs, could I cripple him so that he can't chase us? And that actually brings us into point number 3. Damage should feel real and consequential, not just a number on a sheet. For those of you that have been playing D&D for a long while now, as I have been, I am sure you can recall that one player that has made the immortal character. I'm talking the one with 25 AC by level 5 and so much healing they might as well be using a Rod of Resurrection as a vibrator underneath all that armor. Because I sure have, and it is nothing more satisfying than putting them in a situation that actually affects the character. Usually this is in the form of AoE spells or attacks that can bypass the AC, or by using Bone Chill to prevent healing effects. But what if I told you there is much more real ways of managing HP than just with static numbers? In point number 2, I said that combat can be run more dynamic than just a slash and dash, but that doesn't stop the monsters from doing the same to the players. If a bunch of goblins see a towering ironclad Chad with hulking proportions entering into their cave, they aren't going to go charging in with their flint shivs. Say the goblins retreat as you are squeezing through a low passage. They break the support beam holding the passage up and cause it to cave in around you. Most people would say, oh, the GM is just doing a rocks fall, party dies moment. But that's not what this would be. The player is trapped under rubble, and they quickly realize that yes, they can continue to heal their wounds to survive, but now their bones are broken and split. If they choose to heal themselves now, the wounds would close improperly,
and the bones could cause horrible pain in the joints and could leave them handicapped, unable to continue their extensive adventuring career. Tell the players that healing doesn't solve everything. If you are missing chunks of flesh from your side, and your bones have compounding fractures poking out of your skin, it's not just going to go away with a single 8-hour rest, or even 4 hours of meditation for elves and fae. As a DM, implement systems for players to understand that HP doesn't just mean hit points, but they still need to be able to fix serious injuries with reasonable responses, regeneration for regrowing limbs and appendages, restoration spells for ailments and illnesses, and a reasonable healing strength for reasonable injuries. As a player, realize that no matter how strong you may have made your character, the world is cruel, and even though the DM cannot break you fully in a physical sense, you still should worry that at any moment in the slightest arrogance of pride of immortality, even gods can bleed. Never let your guard down when it comes to what the DM has power over, because at any moment the DM can just cause the rocks to fall and for you to lose all that you have worked for. Speaking of character creation, that brings up point number 4. Your character should feel real and personable. A boring character is boring to play. This may be a hard point for many new players to understand, but each character you make should feel like a living part of yourself, an extension in terms. Just because it's a fake name with fake stats on a piece of paper you folded and crumpled into the bottom of your bag doesn't mean they aren't something that you have made, unless of course you didn't. Each character should be a personal story behind an aspect of yourself, giving them real stakes and fear for the character's survival. In my time of playing D&D, I've only made 2 characters that I could say are massive pieces of my own personality. Most of my own characters I make, I do not put huge amounts of thought behind, but no matter what, each one of them I treat as if they were my own child, because I made them. They each tell a different story and live a different life, because each of them deserves the respect and treatment of the player. You brought them to life when you rolled their stats, wrote their backstory, gave them equipment, a name, a face, a reason to live. There is nothing that makes me more mad than a person that would create a life only to abandon it later because they did not put their heart and soul into what they've made. Everyone deserves the choice, and if you choose to neglect your character, it will show in your gameplay. Your party will know, and the DM will know, and deep down, you will even know that what you're doing is wrong. The only way you can move forward with a character like that is by playing in blissful ignorance that you haven't done anything wrong. Say you're standing next to a Sir Jean Lionheart, fallen commander of the 2nd Battalion to the King, sworn to avenge his comrades and finish the mission that they started to heal the open wounds in his soul. And you're there playing as a character named Toot Toot the Goblin. Well, that got heavy, but still, my point stands. As a DM, your NPCs should have lives and should feel real. That way, your players can grow attached to them as they explore and continue around your story. Each of them should feel as if they play a role, even if they are just one-time side characters the party will never meet again. Even the local toy maker can be a quirky character the players can come back to for a quick smile on their faces. As a player, take it from an anguished D&D veteran. Please put some thought behind your characters. I'm not saying that everything needs to be extremely serious and gritty with realism, but characters should have backstories, history, and motivations that keep them going on. Give characters reason to do what they do, and explain it based on the past. To lighten things up for this video, let's go over number 5 and the final point I have to give. Give your world flavor and flourish. Don't leave them blank templates for a story. Most players will tell you that sometimes the world made by Wizards of the Coast, or WotC, have some inconsistencies that stand out from what would make sense in a real story aspect. Heck, I've even made mistakes in my own storytelling in the past. I'm sure every DM can relate to that. Though I have learned from it and taken my players' feedback in stride. I'm talking about when you walk into a room of a dungeon, it's completely empty except for a table in the center of it. No chairs, no barrels, no crates, nothing. Nothing even on the table. Just a table in a room. I don't know about you, but that level of backrooms uncanny immediately would set off my, okay, this is a trap senses. I'd end up spending the next 10 minutes, minimum, searching the table for levers, switches, loose planks, boards, that could have hidden compartments for keys or other things. Just for the DM to eventually say, hey, let's keep the game moving along, it's just a standard wooden table in a room. I'd end up asking myself, why the table? Why in this room? What is the purpose that the table holds in the dungeon? And suddenly I realize that I am more focused on why a table is down here over the combat with the intellect devourer I just stumbled into. It's more of a distraction to have no answers behind something so plainly out of place that it is just to have a little bit more story behind it. Let's say instead of just a table being there, instead it's made from the wood of a woodwode, and when the players touch it, they find that they can cast Speak with Plants for free to communicate with the table. However, the only thing that the table does is scream in anguish and pain from its form having been cut to size and made into a nice looking table in a dungeon. Now you can tell yourself, oh okay, I bet this chamber at one point had something in it and an adventurer came down here and looted the place, leaving only a polymorphed or carpentered woodwode as a last send-off to the dungeon. Even if that is an outrageous story to come up with, the DM could just be like, oh yeah, a chaotic good barbarian came down here and made a table out of a living dryad. Then everybody has a laugh and moves on. See how much better that is? As a DM, give context to your world. Have it make sense even when it doesn't. Leaving things unanswered for the player makes them believe that they are missing opportunities in the places that they go. It makes them feel like they're not piecing the story together properly. As a player, some things are just out of place in D&D stories, and if your DM is new to the scene, cut them some slack. When odd things stick out like a sore thumb, sometimes it really is just a table in a room with zero importance to the story. And if you dwell on it too long, not only do you end up complicating things for yourself, but you also make the DM feel as if they failed to give you a proper explanation behind the room, and leave themselves disappointed in their own storytelling. There's so much people leave on the Dryad table when it comes to D&D mechanics and story for the world's best role-playing game. It's literally in the title. See? It's right there. But that about wraps up this video on 5 things you could be doing wrong in Dungeons & Dragons. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content from this channel, as I'm trying to get this channel off the ground and really develop it into something special. And feel free to comment on what you'd like to see next. I'm trying to get some suggestions on what I can make that people would enjoy watching as a variety channel. If we can get this video to 100 likes, I'll do whatever the top comic suggests in the future video. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, and this is Showtime, signing off for now.